Right. Hello there. As you can see, I am using the screen record function because, I have the deck physically. It's not really completed, but since it is here on untap, I might as well show you a deck profile on my Kagero Varga Premium deck. So what it does is, it is on turn 4 or most likely at most from turn 4 onwards, if you're lucky, you can do a total of 10 drive checks, and then if you check drive radar, you can do 12 maximum 14 drive checks. So yeah, it's a premium deck list, so let's just get started with it. So for your grade 0, we are running, I am running Unix. You can choose to run any grade 0. My preference is to use the one that gives you a quick show ticket if you go second. So yeah, and then let's just start from the grade 3. So right here we have a Dauntless Drive Dragon, which will be your main Vanguard on turn 3. So what it does is, the first skill is when your drive checks reveal 2 or more normal units, choose one of your rigors and gets 10k until end of turn. So basically, if let's say when you drive check and then you check blanks, you can give one of your farmer regards 10k, which means it's like the average number of a trigger. And then once per turn, after an attack, if your hand has 4 or more cards, you discard 3 cards from your hand and then restand it, which will give you a extra Vanguard attack, and then it does not lose any drive. So technically on your turn 3, your Vanguard can attack 2 times while having a total of 4 drive checks a turn. So it's like 2 on the first swing and 2 on another swing. But then it can only reset if you have 4 or more cards in hand, which, let's say if you have 3 or less cards in hand, you can't really reset. Okay. So lastly is when it is rolled upon, choose one of your Vanguards and it gets all of the auto skill of this unit onto your new Vanguard, which is Vanguard here. So essentially, for the first 2, it is more of a copy and paste. And how the combo works is when you write him onto Varga, his first 2 skill will be applied onto Varga itself, and then therefore you can make Varga swing for 4 times while doing a total of 10 drive checks. So that's why I am running 4 copies of this one. Now next is 4 copies of Fatal One of Unparalleled Varga Dragons. So once per turn, when he attacks the Vanguard, you can kind of blast from retire both sides of your front row, and then Varga gets 10k. And then at the end of the battle, he can restand and drive -2. And then on the Vine skill, it has a few conditions. One, your opponent needs to have a grade 3 or greater unit, which means either Rigor or Vanguard. Secondly, your opponent's damage zone has to have 4 more cards. And thirdly, Varga Dragons must attack 2 or more times this turn. And it can only activate after it attacks. So when there's a counterblast one, restand, and then it gets strike +2. So what you would do usually to get the 10 drive checks is you would attack with Varga first. Use Dauntless once per turn effect, which is applied on Varga to discard 3 restand. And then when you attack with 2 drive checks again, you can use Varga's divine skill to restand and get strike +2. And then you can attack with 4 drives. On attack, use Varga's once per turn skill to get 10k, burn the entire front row, restand, get strike -2, and then attack again with two drive checks, and that's how you get 10 drive checks. And then if let's say you check drive radar, as I mentioned earlier, you can do maximum 14 drive checks depending on which time you checked drive radar. Alright, next up we are running 2 copies of a very reliable old Vanguard support, Obduracy Glaive Dragon. So on front row during your turn, if your front row does not have the same card name as this guy, he can't be retired by Varga's effect or by your own card effects, and then it gets 10k. And then on Vanguard Circle, he gets boosted if your Vanguard is Varga. So essentially, if one rear column has 2 Obduracy Glaives, it will be a base power of a 36k column. If we don't count like the triggers and the power boost you get from Dauntless and Drag Resonance, yeah. But let's say you count that, it's going to be a lot. Next up, running 2 copies of Dragon Dancer Frema. So what she does is, when she's placed during your turn, if you have 2 or more grade 3 or greater units, counting Vanguard, so +1, retire all of your opponent's rear guards in the same column as this unit. If you did not retire 2 or more, draw a card. Essentially, this could be a turn 3 board wipe. I mean, for like 1 column, which means if she's placed on the right front rear guard, on like the right side of the rear guard, you just essentially +1 retire all of their right column rear guards back and front. And yeah, and if the column they have only like 1 rear guard, you can draw a card. And then Continuous has a rear guard. If your opponent has 1 or less rear guards, she gets a boost. This would help much if you stride into let's say you stride to Zambust, you can board wipe like their opponent, which means she can get boost as well. Alternatively, Barakat, no, can't really retire, but let's move on. 4 copies of Brave Breath Dragon. On rearguard, at the end of the battle, he attacked. If your opponent's rearguard was retired this turn, you can retire himself. He gets retired and draw a card. So essentially, if you retire something, you can use him to get my draw power, essentially. And then when he's rolled upon, choose one of your opponent's regulars, retire it. If you did not retire, draw a card. Now here's the confusing keyword about this. You have to retire something if your opponent is a regular. It's not like a May thing. So yeah. Up next is we have 3 of the promo. What's better on Vanguard or Rearguard? when he attacks a Vanguard while being boosted, you can Soul Blast one, choose one of your opponent's columns and then retire that column. It's actually you could say it's a turn to early game board wipe, but for me I will usually use the hand skill, which is at the beginning of your right phase. If your Vanguard is grade 1 or less, discard. Look at oh gosh, the wording is confusing myself here. So on hand, at the beginning of your right phase, if your Vanguard is grade 1 or less, you can discard him. From hand, look at top 5. Choose up to a grade 2 or less card from then. Reveal it, put it to your hand, and shuffle it. So essentially, you have all 3 of them in hand, and you can actually prop them more than one a turn, as long as it is at the beginning of right phase, and you can do it before you ride, which is good. And what else is good is that, let's say your hand doesn't have like a grade 1 or grade 2 that you need to ride. You can just use him, look top 5, and then just hope you have it. So this card is somewhat a good substitute if you don't want to G-assist. Yeah. Next up, one copy of Calamity Tower Wyvern. Just one copy would do. I don't really need much since I am playing Draco Resonance. So what it does is activation on rear guard. Use Soul Blast 1. He gets retired. Choose one of your rear guards, gets 15k. Since I am running mostly Force 2, your Vanguard would be if counting skill, a 28 attacker. Yeah. I'm not sure if I have anything else to add on. Next, 2 copies of Ermo. I hope I said it right. So continuous when he is boosting, he gets 3k. And then auto on rear guard. This is during main phase, not a battle phase. So when your opponent's rear guard is retired during your turn, he gets retired, you draw a card, and then you counter charge. Since you don't really have any good other counter chargers, he is good. This card is good so that you can use Varga's skill for the combo, and as long as him he's only plays on regard effect. So 2 copies with you. Next, 4 copies of Lava Flow Dragon. You would run him. So what he does is, if he is placed on Vanguard or Vanguard from hand, you look at top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 grade 3 card from them, and reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. If you add a card from hand, you have to discard a card from hand, which yeah, well, not everyone really likes that. So continuous on Vanguard or Vanguard. During your turn, if you have more Vanguards than your opponent, it gets 5k. So essentially, if you go second on turn 1, or from your turn 2 onwards, if you have more Vanguards than your opponent due to the amount of retiring, or they choose to reserve their hand, he becomes a 13k booster or attacker depending on how you want to use it. And some cards are like 10k shield, not sure how, but oh yeah. Up next is Dragonite Hishat. I can see it. So on place on rear guard, Counter Blast on Soul Blast 1, draw a card, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and retire it. So essentially, I'm not sure how you can put this. It's more like they lose their one of their boosters apparently. And then its second effect is when roll upon look at top 5, reveal up to one grade 3 or greater card from among them. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle the die. In my opinion, you would want to write into him more than Lava Flow Dragon because thanks to his short skill, you don't have to discard a card from hand after finding a grade 3 and then into hand like this. So yeah, that is it for the normal units. The triggers. For triggers, I mean, we are running Drive Raider has your over trigger of choice because to restand and then get more attacks. And then next up we are running a crit. First up it is your strike crit. So when she is discarded, has your strike cost. She will be regarded as a grade 3 when you do that. Yeah. And then your other 4 crits are the what I call draw crits because essentially you may use the old version since it's being errated, but I prefer running the updated reprint version so I won't have to forget it. So the first effect doesn't really matter because you're not playing a Draconic Playmaster, so we don't have to worry about that. What's important is the second effect, which is when this card is well damage checked, you draw a card. So yeah. So this essentially becomes a hybrid critical and draw trigger. But the hybrid draw trigger part only happens when you damage check it. Next up is your 3 copies of draw PGs. This is not like the normal standard effect PGs that you still have to discard a card even if you have one or less cards in hand. Okay, now for your heal triggers. 1 copy of the grade 3 heal. She is good for, let's say you're going second, and then you can use her regard, and you can either give your Vanguard 10k onto end of turn and to end of your opponent's turn because you are using it to guard anyway. And then a second option is your opponent loses 2 crit until end of that battle, which yes, it can go down to negative. I've tried it before. Yeah. Next is your 3 effect heals. The effect of 0 heals. This is updated. You can use the old one. So what she does is your average heal trigger as usual, and then if she is used has cost for calling a G Guardian, you can bind this card plus another heal trigger from drop, making it you bind a total of 2 heal triggers, and then you may counter charge or soul charge 1. I would prefer the counter charge effect because if you don't really have ammo on standby, you can use her, and then you can use the KFC bird to has like a hybrid PG for rear guards. You can say that, yeah. And yeah, so up next, 2 copies of Dread Resonance. So essentially, if you play it, your Vanguard gets once per turn auto red tags. When your Vanguard stands, all your farm units gets taken until end of turn. Yeah, so since it happens only once per turn, it will be wise if you use it on turn 4, most likely. So yeah, that's why I'm running 2 copies. Next is your elementary sensitive for the 4th copy of Sentinel. Is the triple drive one. Don't really have to explain it. Now for the G zone, we are running Harmonics Messiah to spawn out a Guardian Shield, but it only happens if you go second. The Armchair Valor. So yeah, if you have more Vanguard than your opponent, he'll blaze, and then when he's placed on Vanguard from strike, you can +1, turn a card from your G zone face up, choose one of your opponent's Vanguard to retire it, and then he gets 15k for each Sentinel in your drop zone. I would say this is somewhat good as a finisher for some people, but for me, I would like to use Varga as my finisher. But let's say I have like three draw Sentinels in drop, I would use it to finish it off. So auto once per turn, when your opponent places a Sentinel or a G Guardian, and then if he is blazing, you can stand him and it gets strike -1. It's not bad. So running 2 copies. 1 copy of Zen Bus for the simple board wipe and plus Nike power. Bara cut. So when he attacks, turn the card from G zone face up. If they have 3 or more open regular circles, and I mean like your opponent, he gets 10k power +1 crit +1 drive, and then if they have 5 or more open regular circles, that means they have no regulars whatsoever, or unless they play Excel markers, all of your rear guards get 10k and turn. So essentially, if you pair this up with Force 2, he would be 3 crits. Yeah. And that's it for the G units. Now for the G Guardians. Colburn. You don't really use him, but he is just for like the extra shield value if their hand is like quite big. KFC, the best G guard. It's a quote unquote perfect guard for your rear guards, apparently. Blaze Dragon Dance Salima for like another PG option, but yeah. Next so the base effect is you soul +1, discard 4 cards from your hand, choose one of your units, and it cannot be hit until the end of that battle. However, let's say when you would discard cards from your hand, the number gets reduced by 1 depending on how many open regular circles it has. So essentially, if they have 4 open regular circles, you don't have to discard. I think if I remember correctly. So yeah, she is a PG option. Yep. Next one is your markers. I run 6 force ones. I don't really use them much, but hey, it works. Up next is the one that I mostly rely on is your force 2 for the base to crit on Vanguard. This one I guess your unit on that marker gets 10k. Yeah. Up next is your quick shield ticket. I'm going to use the bank dream one because it's cute and it technically doesn't really matter on like which deck you use it, because I mean it did come from the Bang Dream title booster set, but then it is not restricted to only Bang Dream. That means it can be used in like any clan. Yeah. So quick shot ticket. Choose one of your units being attacked. It gets 5k at the end of that battle. Now for the Guardian Shield. It works the same as the quick shot, except of giving it 5k, it gets 20k. And that is it for my premium deck profile. As you know, yes, I do have the physical version. I just don't want to use it because like I'm missing 2 more of these critical triggers, so that's why. And yeah, that is it for the deck profile. I hope you like it. I might have lost a few of ideas, maybe of like thinking what to do. Yeah, so bye bye.